I'm Luke,
And I'm Tyler,
and this is Mixed to Tape.
the podcast where we talk about audio, from recording to mastering and everything else in between.
We're here to start discussions and help answer your questions.
Let's get started. Hey, Luke.
Hello, Tyler.
How are you?
I'm hanging in there. How are you?
Good. It's only been 5 days since the last time I've seen your pretty
I know
face.
our podcast schedule is a total mess, and it's all my fault.
No, that was my fault last time, I think, right?
Well, last time it was late because yes, and then I have my big commencement ceremony that I'm planning for and setting up for all week next week. So
Yeah, we were talking about that before we started recording, and it sounds like
Yeah.
it's going to be a lot of fun.
it will be a lot of fun. It'll be a lot of work. I'm excited for the students. This is like a really great learning opportunity for our students. You know, we bring in students from the sound and recording program and they work with me. And for a lot of them, this is the first event that they've done that's like really this kind of scale. Not only like where they have to think about tons of monitors and, you know, line array and delays and things like that, but this is also like they have to do it in front of 7,000 people. And so it's interesting,
Yeah.
you know. Highfalutin people will be there. It's going to be great. And then Sunday comes and we do the whole thing and then we tear it all down and we go home and we sleep for weeks.
What does it take you to break that down, like a full day with full crew, or?
Honestly, like audio stuff, if we're really cooking, I can have the audio stuff done in about 3 to 4 hours.
Oh, nice.
It all depends on if you've never worked a live sound gig before. You know, it depends on what is attached to where and like what is ready to be taken down. Like you can't take down stuff out in the audience if the chairs are still there.
Right.
You can't take down your speakers if a video wall is also hung from the same place. You got to take down the video wall first. And like, you know, we have the big curtains and things like that up. So, but yeah, anyways, it's based on the setup that we're doing, we could probably have this whole thing audio wise. We can have that taken care of in about 3 to 4 hours. And then, you know, the other crews will keep working. And then I doubt they'll be working past like 7 or anything.
Yeah.
Like that.
Do you like high five them when you're done and say, see you guys later?
Yeah. I mean, you know, yeah, we all have different jobs. Like I don't expect the video people to help out the audio people.
Yeah.
They're going to clean up their cameras and they're going to go. And like, seriously, no offense to video people, but like if you're a person who works primarily in video, I'm not sure I necessarily want your help doing audio things because you're going to wrap cables in different ways. You're going to put things away in the wrong place and it may end up not being quite as helpful.
Yeah.
So there will be a little bit of overlap in terms of help, but for the most part, yeah, it's like when we're done, we get to go, and when they're done, they get to go.
Nice.
So, yeah. So I look forward to that. How are you doing?
Good. I'm doing good. Not much new with me lately. I got the car inspected today. That was the most exciting thing that happened to me today. It passed. And they tried to charge me $75 to clean my battery terminals and put in a new cabin air filter. And I said, no, thank you.
Come on.
I know.
You need a better shop.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's just the Firestone down the street just for the inspection, but
Yeah. Do you have a normal shop you go to?
no.
Just the Firestone people?
I mean, if I need to get work done, I actually haven't needed work really on my car to be done. Like I'll do, if I need tires, I'll go to Mavis or something. But like I can do like brakes and rotors at home and like smaller stuff like that. I had to get my head gasket replaced on my old Subaru. I took that to the dealership. So
Do you have a garage?
I do not. I wish I did.
Okay. Yeah. That's my millennial dream right now. Is to own a house with a garage.
Yeah.
One day. I know it'll happen one day. Sweet. Now we're all caught up.
Yes, we are.
So why don't we get started with another exciting, enthralling episode. Nope, segment.
Segment, yes, for sure.
Segment of In Case You Missed It. Tyler, did you hear about Madonna's concert on a Brazilian beach?
I did not hear about this until I saw the notes.
This concert was crazy. At the end of her celebration tour, Madonna she held a concert in Rio de Janeiro for free and said, whoever wants to show up, we'll make it happen. She just set up a stage on a beach, and I don't know how many people they anticipated showing up, but 1.6 million people showed up to this concert.
That's wild. That's a lot of people. I looked at the pictures and I can't believe it.
That's like presidential inauguration level crowds. That's like so I used to work for the company that did the presidential inauguration, and we would have to, it wasn't just the live sound at the Capitol building. We would have delay speakers set up all the way back to the Lincoln Memorial.
Oh my goodness.
And like all those speakers had to be coordinated and delayed by a certain amount. All of them had to be like tested and ready to go, of course. And I can't imagine what this setup would look like, especially when you don't have the luxury of like ticket sales also being your RSVP. Like,
right. How far do we have to go back with these monitors, right?
Right. Like, how many delay hangs do we need to set up?
Right.
Like, I'm sure one will be fine. I don't know. Like, so anyways, 1.6 million people showed up. And
Crazy.
That's it. You should, if you are at home, I would strongly suggest you look up Madonna on the Brazilian beach and look at these pictures because they are pretty wild. There's also some great videos out there that really showcase the size of the crowd.
I have to check it out.
Yeah.
Or I'll take your word for it.
Tyler, what do you got?
I'm sure most people have heard now, but Steve Albini has passed away at 61 due to a heart attack. You know, some of the notable albums he recorded and engineered: Pixies' Surfer Rosa, PJ Harvey's Rid of Me, which is one of my favorites, Dirty Three's Ocean Songs, Nirvana's In Utero, and Joanna Newsom Ease album. Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I was so shocked to hear that.
Yeah.
It just kind of made me kind of to think, like, I'm 37 now. 61's not that far away. I mean, it is, but it's not. Like, my oldest will be 26 then, you know?
Right.
So, I mean, I'm not speculating why he had a heart attack, but I think it's like a little bit of a wake-up call to maybe start taking care of myself a little bit better. And,
Yeah.
you know, I want to be around for my children, you know?
He gave a talk at Ithaca College about a year ago, and yeah, he seemed normal
Yeah.
and vibrant.
Yeah. Opinionated.
Yes, and
That's why we
opinionated.
loved him, right?
Yes, yes. If any of you want a really fun time, a really good kick, just look up Steve Albini opinions. He has some great opinions about Steely Dan, about digital audio. He was known, at least for us, he was really known for being a hardcore analog guy.
Yeah.
I appreciated that he wasn't like completely analog. Like if a client came to him with something digital, he could still work with it.
Right.
But he really did push to work in analog and stay in analog. And like I think I remember him telling stories about like just taking digital stuff and converting it to analog and working on it from there. But yeah, he's definitely a powerhouse. I think
Yeah,
that will be
absolutely. He will be missed. Luke, you have anything else?
I got one more in case you missed it. On May 13th, we are recording this before May 13th, but when you listen to this, it will be after May 13th. Logic Pro is updating. Apple is releasing an update to Logic Pro. They're calling it Logic Pro 11. This will be a free update for everybody who has Logic Pro, or if you want to buy it, it's the same price as normal for $200. It doesn't look like a super beefy update, but it has some pretty interesting upgrades.
Yeah, it does.
So for those of you who aren't familiar with Logic, one of their features that they have is something called the drummer track. So it's similar to an instrument or like a MIDI track, but the drummer track uses, I guess, a basic form of AI, and it will essentially create an entire drum beat for you. It's actually really slick. It's one of my favorite features of Logic to show off to new users. Um, I won't get into all the details of it, but it is a really kind of slick little program. Their new feature that they're adding in Logic 11 is they're beefing it up with even more AI since Apple seems to be going all in on AI this year. And they're also including a keyboard and bass AI player.
That's pretty cool.
So if you're not good at playing keys or playing bass, then this is the upgrade for you. They are also including a new feature called a stem splitter. The idea here, I guess, is if you have a stereo file of something with a whole bunch of instruments, it can split them all out into stems. I feel like, Tyler, you and I have dealt with this feature for a number of years.
Yeah. I don't have high hopes. I don't know how good this is going to sound.
Yeah. Yeah. We will remain skeptical until proven otherwise.
Yeah. We'll get back to you on that one.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna check this stuff out on Monday or Tuesday, and I'll have some opinions then, I suppose. I'll say that my experience with this feature in the past has been, yes, it stems it out, and yes, there are tons and tons of artifacts, and that kind of like warbly sound, that like weird underwater sound that comes. So yeah, I'm curious to see what this sounds like in a program that they're only charging $200 for.
But yeah, I mean, props to Logic though, keeping the price point the same. I can't remember. I mean, I feel like it's always been $200.
Yes.
And free upgrades. That's amazing.
Yeah, the free upgrades kind of blows my mind. The fact that they haven't included a subscription model yet, the only subscription model that exists is for the iPad, is kind of I can't believe the amount of value I've gotten from a single DAW.
Yeah.
You know, I do love Pro Tools a lot, but $200 for Logic is almost a no-brainer.
Yeah.
The last feature they're including is a plugin called Chroma Glow. It's a new saturation plugin that aims to emulate the effects of some of the world's most sought-after studio hardware.
Cool.
So I guess we'll see what that means as time goes on.
Do you have any go-to saturation plugins that you like to use?
I mean, Sound Toys.
Yeah.
I mean, how can you not? Sound Toys is so great. What are yours?
I use Sound Toys. God, what else do I use? I have Pro Tools Ultimate, so sometimes I'll turn on Heat, which is pretty cool to use across the whole, multi-track if you want. It can be pretty subtle and a little heavy-handed if you want, But what else do I use? Oh, I use Black Box, which is a really fun one. I think it's by Plugin Alliance.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But other than that, sometimes I'll turn off like the compression on an 1176 and just crank up the input on it. Stuff like that.
Yep. Yeah. The LA2 is another great one.
Yeah.
You ever used an LA2 as a mic pre? You ever done that trick?
No, I've never done that.
It's something. It is something. You bring that noise floor with you, but it actually can be a vibe. Right. I wouldn't do it like across the entire mix, but like if you wanted a really neat like affected guitar or vocal or something like that, it's actually kind of neat.
Yeah.
So that is our news.
That's it.
All right. Our topic for today, we thought we would talk a little bit about session setup before the client and or talent and or artist and or performer, whichever word you prefer.
Yeah.
Before they arrive. Tyler, what are some of your go-to like things that you feel are the most important when you were like getting ready for a big session? What are things you really think about and focus on?
Well, I guess I go back a little bit. If I'm engineering a session, usually, you walk in the morning and the setup will already mostly be done, hopefully. I go around and just kind of neaten things up. But things that are really important to me are sight lines. It's not super important that I guess it depends on what you're recording, but if you have a conductor, everyone needs to be seeing that conductor. If it's like a trio, everyone should be able to see each other at that point. I know when we were at Avatar, there were some spots where you couldn't get sight lines of people, so we'd put a big tall like wardrobe mirror on one of those big wide conductor stands and kind of position it so the guy in the bass booth could see someone in the Motown room or something like that.
Do you ever think about sightlines to you as the engineer as well?
I think that's less important.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes I do, but it's whoever's waving their hands out there, or conducting the band.
Okay.
Or orchestra or whatever you're recording. But I mean, it's important. I think it's important sometimes to be able to see what's happening. But I've worked in rooms where it's like your field of vision is just so limited, you can't really see that much anyway. So to try and like do a setup based on that to make it so I can see everybody just wouldn't make sense,
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, layout, cable management, I think is another good one. I remember back in Avatar, I used to lay my lines like a river. Everything was nice and flat.
Yeah.
And nothing crossed over each other. I used to take a lot of time and just like think methodically about, okay, so what lines do I have to run first? And
Did all of us go through that phase at Avatar at some point?
I think so. Yeah.
I feel like all of us. it all like all of the neuroticism and the organization and all of it just like all came together when it like we're running lines and we're gonna like make them flow.
Yeah.
Oh my God. It just looks so good.
Yeah, it looked good, and it also made life easier if you had to pull a line or something or trace something back. You're not, trying to like pull cables through a rat's nest. And also breakdown went a lot faster too.
Yeah.
Like, right? Yeah, also with cable management, if it's possible to not run cables like where someone's going to be walking. Like if someone's going to be in like a booth, try, and there's like a doorway to get into that booth, don't run cables in front of that doorway. If possible, try and run it around the perimeter of the booth to the microphones, just so they don't step on the cables. It looks so neat that way, and there'd be no tripping hazards. But if you do have to run cables where people are walking, you could put down like a little rug or like a runner that can kind of help protect the cables a little bit and avoid people tripping on them, or just put down some gaff tape. What about you, Luke? Do you have anything that you like to do for session setup?
Cable management is definitely one I feel like is always worth harping on one more time.
Yeah.
Because it, like, not having that tripping hazard is such a small thing, but if the performer never has to worry about a tripping hazard, then, like, the session always feels like it goes more smoothly.
Yeah.
Plus, then, in a sense, like, your lines are kind of hidden, and there's something that's kind of psychologically neat about that.
Yeah.
There is, okay, I keep using the word psychologically. There's something like awful about seeing a whole bunch of XLR lines like running out like a spider web from the panel. That's, I don't know, it's really distracting and frustrating for me. One thing that I always feel is really important when it comes to session like setup, session prep, is having a really well organized Pro Tools session.
Yeah.
Beyond just like tracks labeled. Like, come on, like any moron can like label tracks and hit command space. No, we're talking like all the, similar instruments are color coordinated and ready to go. We have groups made. I like personally to create a record group, a group that is just everything that is being recorded. My group is just record and input monitor enables, toggles. I'll typically set up a few different window configurations so that I can really very quickly restructure my window, with a simple keyboard shortcut. My window is cascaded in such a way that I can see my meters and I can see my edit window at the same time. And one of the last things I like to do when my session is all set and ready to go is I will put everything into input monitor. And the reason I'll do that is because most often my headphones the headphones going to all of my performers is going to be post Pro Tools.
Right.
So if Pro Tools is closed, they won't be able to hear anything. And especially if they're in separate booths, they won't be able to hear each other.
Right.
So if all of my tracks are an input monitor in Pro Tools, the next time I open up the session all my tracks will be immediately live. If I
Right.
had put those tracks into record arm, when I open up the session again, the record arm by default it toggles off when you open up a session, but
Right.
input monitor stays on. So the reason I turn on input monitor from there is because once I close the session, that is my template that I will be working from for the rest of the day. And then, assuming I'm doing multiple songs, I will take that template session with all of my, whatever. I mean, I guess it's just theoretically it'll just be the session file within there. But I'll take the folder itself, I'll call it temp or something like that. I'll duplicate it, call it the song name, relabel the session as the song name, open that
Right.
up, and now all of my tracks are input monitored and they're ready to go. Having like a really solid Pro Tools session, like ready with all
Yeah.
of my overdubs ready, all of my groups ready, like having all of that stuff figured out makes the inevitable like, hey, can we do like a shaker pass
Right.
that you weren't anticipating?
Right.
It's just like, oh yeah, that's not a big deal.
Right.
And now I don't have a shaker pass that's called audio 1.03.
Oh God. Yeah.
Right? It's
right.
called shaker.03.
Right. Right.
What's another one for you? What do you like?
I guess I'm gonna go back to cable management again and talk about the patch bay. Right?
Sure.
Yeah. I think cable management with the patch bay is even more important than cable management in the live room. Because when you're under fire and you need to change something quickly, if you have your patches color coordinated, like you can have like one color for all your mic lines, you can have one color for all your inserts, another color for your effects ends and returns. If you have to troubleshoot something, you can just quickly see what's going where without really having to dig for it. And it just looks so nice. I'll put a picture up of, I have a picture of one of my patch bays, and it's just like, it brings me joy every time I look at it.
I have a feeling I have a feeling it will be glorious.
Yeah.
Do you also do you color coordinate like as you're patching in like the mic lines or something? Do you do like left and right?
Oh yeah, for sure. If I can do that, I'll do that more in the live room
Okay.
for overheads or something, whatever's left and right. I'll try and do that. What else? You're setting up microphones. Make sure that the microphones are flat, so no pads, no filters on them, unless if it's been specified by the engineer, right? So many times you walk into a room and you go and check the microphone on your upright bass and you're using something that has a pad on it and there's a pad on it. Same thing goes for DI boxes,
Always check the 421 for Sprechen.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Oh my goodness.
I like to exercise the switches.
Yeah.
Right. So even if I know it's going to be flat, the number of times where, I or we have had to troubleshoot a microphone that was bad and it was because there was a dirty switch on there, even though we hadn't adjusted the switch.
Right.
If I'm setting it up, like just by toggling it back and forth very quickly, I've also forced myself to set it to where it should be.
Right.
And now it's clean. It's cleaner than it used to be.
Yeah. And then microphones go on mic stands. So I always try and place them where they're going to go, but like always pulled back a little bit. So if the drummer hasn't set up the drum set yet or positioned the drums, you want to get all your mics where they're going to be, but pulled back about a foot or so. So if they need to move the drum set at all or make adjustments, they're not having to move your microphones and feel so crowded. And also make sure the mic stands are tight enough to like support the microphone, but not like Gorilla Grip tight, where you need to use like a pair of drumsticks to like loosen the clutch on the mic stand, Another big thing in the live room I like to get set up is the headphone boxes. If you're using like a hearback system that is a digital headphone system, you can set on an even pairs to be stereo, right? Or not. So sometimes it's left over from the previous session. They had something on like 1 and 2 that was stereo and it's still linked. So, go through all that, make sure whatever needs to be stereo linked is linked or not. And then I always like to try and just get up, if it's a blank session with no playback already, just turn everything up to like, 2 or 3 o'clock, or maybe 12 o'clock. And then whatever instrument where this headphone box is at, say it's the bass, turn him up a little bit more. So they can put the headphones on and automatically just hear everybody on input. So many times it's like, I can't hear this guy in maybe someone's not familiar with the headphone box and they're like, I can't figure it out. And you go out and it's someone's just turned down all the way, you know?
Do you like to split out the headphone sends for your performers, or do you prefer to do a lot of the mixing in the box and like do the
Oh,
mix for them?
it depends. So like when I do Sesame Street, in the morning we do the rhythm section. So it's drums, bass, guitar, and two keyboard players. They all have discrete faders that they can listen to themselves on. So they make their own mixes. In the afternoon, we record brass and woodwinds. And at that point, I will send the rhythm section as a mix from the console, right? And then there's faders for trombone, trumpet, and woodwind player.
Mm.
So a lot of the times, the woodwind player is playing what the keyboard players are playing. So I'll just, as I'm playing back, if they need more, I have it post fader. So I can just push the faders up and give him more vibes or whatever
Okay.
on the fly. So yeah, it depends.
Yeah, you're working with some real serious players at Sesame Street, so like giving them a stemmed out version of what they're playing is not, it wouldn't frustrate or confuse them.
Right. No, not at all.
They know how to make their own mix.
Yeah, for sure. Those guys slay, man. But it takes at the end of the day when you're doing horns, you know, they don't want to be worrying about turning up the bass or the guitar or the cues. You know, if I can get a good mix from the console, you know, then it's great. It just makes less work for them, less to think about. And then if they need to make a change, they just say, hey, I need more drums. And that's it. And I can do it for them. But yeah, you're right. Just looking at the notes, some people do good with a stereo mix right off the console. No fuss, you know. Vocalists, I think it's important. Could work good for them.
Yeah, lets them worry a little bit more about just their voice and their performance. Yeah.
What else? Labeling and I guess control room stuff. Yeah, make sure the console's labeled, all of your inputs. If you're using outboard gear, you know, put a piece of tape on there and label whatever's going through it. You know, sometimes people won't specify if they want like a reverb or not. So that was one of my favorite things at Avatar. I'd patch in my favorite plate and maybe the stairwell if I could use it that day. Maybe like some fun outboard effects, but you know, it's good to have that stuff ready to go. So if they want to just have a little room or a plate or something, you can just turn it on and it's ready to go instead of just getting sounds. And it's like, hey, can I get some 480 on this reverb? And it's like, oh shoot, I got to patch that in now. You know?
Yeah. But even, you know, even more than that, I think it's also important especially if you're using outboard gear, to make sure that gear is calibrated.
Yes, I feel like that doesn't happen.
Yeah, it really doesn't. It's this thing that's overlooked and it's like frustrating. So if you are patching into a compressor, theoretically, the sound going out should be the same loudness as the sound going in.
Right, when you first patch it in.
Right.
Right.
Because it can be confusing, especially if you've patched in multiple things all in series, and then you know suddenly your signal is like way too loud or way too quiet, and you're not quite sure where the gain staging got messed up. Now you're turning up the input on the EQ, but actually it was your compressor that was turned down, the output gain, or whatever. So taking like seriously, it takes it once you know what you're doing, it can take like 2 minutes.
It doesn't take long at all.
To just go through, to just go through the outboard gear that you're using at least, and send out, I don't know, whatever your system is called to, -18, -18 like 1K tone, bring it back into Pro Tools, and if it's -18, it's calibrated.
Yeah.
And you're done.
Yeah, and moving on to the next.
Yeah. And you could keep those same patches. You just patch out of the 1176, and then you go into the next 1176. It's like you just hop down the line.
Yeah. And now how would you calibrate like an 1176 that has a fixed threshold? What would you do for that? Like how would you determine how much to turn the input up?
So for those, I set a really fast attack, simply because I want to see the needle move as soon as it kicks in, kind of thing. You bring up the input as far as you can until you see the needle start to wiggle.
Yeah.
And as soon as you see that needle start wiggling, pull it back just a little bit. Now I'm looking at Pro Tools, and I've got my hand on the output knob, and I'm going to adjust that either up or down until I have that -18 in Pro Tools. Same thing. Reverbs are a little tricky to cal. I don't have you ever tried those?
Yeah, for sure. I guess you can't really calibrate. I mean, I guess you can. I don't know how to do it. Like a 140 plate. I'm sure you can calibrate it with the unit itself.
Yeah.
But like a 480, like a digital reverb, I know the 480s had an in and out program where it would be, I guess, 100% dry. So you can, one person would have to be in the machine room, right? 'Cause I haven't done that in so long. You'd have one guy in the machine room on the phone or yell to them with the tweaker, and those things were so touchy. You'd blow on it and it would go up like 6 dB. So
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, you'd send tone into it. You would have someone do the input pots, and the input pots would show 0 on the Lark on the controller, right? And then once that was at 0, then you would do the output, and then that would be your 0 VU or your -18. But yeah, I'm trying to think other effects how you do it. I guess you would set it to 100% dry, and then do your input output from there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like delays and things like that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
That'd be the way to go. I think it's also worth mentioning the kind of basics. Session layout, like doing a layout sheet, doing an input list,
yes,
doing a headphone list, and if you really know what you're doing, like say where those headphones sends are being sourced from,
yeah,
figuring out I think some of the best engineers that we worked with were the ones who would not only just like I don't know, like we're gonna do a basic vocal overdub session. They would say, no, I want the vocal on channel 24 because
yeah,
channel 24 is right next to the center section of the console. The not as good engineers were always just like, just like plug in a vocal on
yeah.
channel one.
Well, that was going to be my question. Like, whose responsibility is that? I remember some engineers would give you every single detail, which was amazing, and I would love that. And other engineers would just say, we're recording drums tomorrow, and like, that's it. you know?
Yeah, oh yeah. Well, I mean, we had some of those, and then you had like the in-betweens, the ones who would like give you a list, but it was like
It
not
made
that
no
well thought
sense,
through.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Let me just redo this for you.
Yeah, and there was a couple of those like, yeah, we're gonna save the session.
Yeah,
But even like just saying where you want the vocal booth set up. Do you want to set up in the middle of the room? Do you want to set up in the side? You can have a big difference.
yeah, absolutely.
So, having a basic layout that you can give to the assistant or just a basic layout just a plan for yourself if you're setting it up yourself. Having those things written down and planned out are great. I used to, as a production assistant at Avatar, our responsibility was to pull like microphones and gear and like kind of, we might do setup, but at the very least we were trying to have everything in the room that the assistant would need, from mic stands to cables to chairs, right, and stands. Before I ever like pulled a microphone or thought about a cable, I would actually sit down with a piece of paper and I would literally write down every single piece of thing that I would need, from, music stands to mic stands and everything. And having that plan got me out of so much trouble.
Yeah, because it wasn't like, oh shoot, I forgot this thing. Like you're on the train ride home and you're like, oh crap, I forgot to pull this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know, I work in live sound now too. Do you know how many times that people have forgotten to bring the console?
No.
It's
No.
it's really funny because
No.
you remember everything else.
Right.
You're going to remember the speakers and, oh, it's a speaker. It definitely needs amps. We got the cable box. We got the cable box. Oh, microphones. We need those. Okay, oh, wait, we forgot this one thing. And then because you forgot that one thing, you forgot that you forgot the
Yep.
console. And you're like 15 minutes away from, and somebody's like, wait, did you grab the M32? Oh, no. Yeah.
That's amazing.
So when I'm pulling gear for live sound, I'll make a list and I have a little section called console. And it's one thing. It's one console, and I'll put the little tick mark next to it, right?
Yeah.
The little tally mark.
Yeah.
One M32 console,
Yeah.
and it's there. And now I could run through the whole list, and I see that M32. I will assume that I will forget everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so
yeah.
by writing it all down, I hopefully forget nothing.
And that's why you always make a list, right?
And that's why you always make a list. Anything else? Anything else you can think of?
I think we covered pretty much everything.
Yeah. I mean, look, there's a lot to think about, but that's why we're here.
Yeah.
That's why we're doing this.
Yeah.
It'll take you about, 5 years to get it right.
Yeah.
And then,
You'll still screw it up.
and then you'll still make mistakes.
But yeah, one last thing we have
Okay.
written down here is to set the vibe and the mood. If it's that kind of session, if you're in like a big room like Studio 8 Avatar, you can get in a couple couches there with a coffee table and a nice rug, a couple colored uplighting,
Yeah. Oh man, I forgot about those uplights.
Yeah.
Those little park cans.
Yeah.
Their uplights they have now are so much better.
Oh my goodness, I know.
We have these like moon rock things at Avatar. They're just these like big glowing rock things at Avatar at Ithaca College. And they're great. They're great mood lighting. They're like really warm. Christmas lights make a great mood light.
They do. There was, Ryan Adams did a live recording at Avatar in Studio C. I think it was, which album was it? Easy Tiger? God, I have to look this up. Anyway, the vibe in that session is so great. It's so good. It's like white Christmas lights.
Oh man.
It's really good. And I think that's when he wasn't sober yet, and the performance is like so good. It's really good.
And now it's even worse now with social media and everything. Like there's just an assumption now that if you're doing a recording, it's going to end up on social media.
Yeah.
So if you can get that background to look just great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bonus points.
Yeah. I mean, I always felt like it was like the lockout sessions, we'd vibe them out a little bit more. If it was like a day session, it's like we're setting up, we're recording, and we're breaking down,
Yeah.
So those sometimes felt a little more sterile, but.
Yeah. It was when we got to bring in the floor lamps. That's when things really.
Yeah.
That's when shit was hitting the fan.
Yeah, it was Ryan Adams and the Cardinals. That's what it was.
And the Cardinals.
But which record was he playing? I'll send you a link. It's so good.
Okay.
2007. Yeah.
Well,
Real Candles.
Real
Which
candles.
Yeah.
Like
Like live,
brought
yeah.
live candles.
Live Candle. Yeah.
How'd they get the studio manager to sign off on that one?
I don't know. Yeah.
Avatar was a tinderbox.
Yeah, I know.
The fire marshal told us at one point, he said, if this place catches on fire, I'm not sending firefighters in to rescue you. You need to get out. Or
He said that to you?
He didn't say it to me. I
Okay.
think he told it to management or something like that. Because it was like the whole place was just going to like light up like a Christmas tree.
Yeah.
So know your fire exits.
Yes.
That's our final tip.
Yeah. Tip of the day. Great.
Okay.
Well, this has been fun.
That was nice.
Yeah.
This is a nice conversation. Thank you all. Thank you, Tyler.
Thank you, Luke.
And I guess we'll catch you all next time.
Yeah, we'll see you on the next one. Peace.
Thanks for listening. Please don't forget to subscribe. We put out new episodes every other Thursday. If you liked what you heard, take a second to give us a review. Every review helps new listeners find us. If you'd like to support us, you can find us on Patreon. We have some perks for our new subscribers and plans for more as we continue and grow. If you'd like to join the conversation, find us on Facebook or Instagram by searching Mixed to Tape Podcast. If you'd like to contact us, write us at mixedtotapepodcast@gmail.com. We can't wait to hear your questions. Thanks, and we hope to see you next time.